Welcome to the It's All About Missions podcast with Brady Van Winkle, as we endeavor to talk about missions and the need for the gospel all around the world. We hope we can help you find your place in world evangelism. And for questions or for more information, please check out it'sallaboutmissions.com. And now we hope you enjoy the show. Hello, and thank you for joining us on this week's episode of It's All About Missions, Country of the Week, Country Spotlight. And we're once again back in the continent of Africa, and we're going to be looking at the country of Senegal. You say, a lot of people, they don't know a lot about the countries in Africa. Senegal is in Western Africa. It's right there on the coast. It's a country of around 18 million people. 16.8 million. I got my numbers switched around there. 16.8. So basically 17 million people live there in the country of Senegal. The main language, the official language there is French. But as in many of the African countries, there are many tribal languages as well. There's a list of about 9 or 10 tribal languages I saw that are recognized there. And so depending on where you're at, more than likely you'd have to learn those tribal languages. But you could go learn French. And then from there, from learning French, you could also learn tribal language. Because as it said, if you learn the heart language, as has been said, if you learn the heart language, you can win the heart of the people. And so what do they speak? What is their heart language? The capital city there is Dakar. I hope I'm saying that right. Dakar. That's about 2.5 million people that live in Dakar. And there's only one other city in the entire country that has a population of over 1 million. And so there's a lot of people that live in and around the Dakar area. What's interesting about the country of Senegal is that 96% of it would be considered Islamic, Muslim. And there's about 4% that would be Christian, but that's not true Christianity. Basically, 4% would be Roman Catholic. And what's so sad, though, is these people are Muslim and they're Catholic and they believe all these lies. They believe that they have to work and do all these things. And hopefully, at the end of their lives, hopefully they've done enough to please Allah or to please God. But they don't have to do that. Why? Because Jesus came and died on the cross for their sins. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. They can put their faith and trust in Jesus and be saved. But you know what I find crazy? You say, well, Brady said it was 96% Muslim. So that probably means it's really difficult. You can't go there as a missionary. You can't start churches. But the truth is, it is a religiously free country. There are open doors in the country of Senegal. And we need to pray that God will raise laborers, that God will use those that are there, over there. But there's an open door. You don't find many Muslim countries where there are open doors. And so there's an open door in Senegal. We need to pray that God will keep that door wide open, but God will raise more laborers to go into the country of Senegal and plant churches and see men trained. And this week, let's join in praying for the country of Senegal. Let's pray, first of all, for those that may already be laboring there, that God will continue to bless their ministries, that God will give them boldness, that God will give them fruit for their labor. On top of that, let's pray for the Senegalese pastors, that God will allow them to preach the gospel even more boldly, that God will allow them to see fruit for their labors as well, but also that God will see men called out of their flock that they could train and send to pastor other places in Senegal and all around the countries of Africa. But on top of that, let's pray for the Senegalese Christians, that God will embolden them, that God will give them guidance and direction, but also that God will allow them to share the gospel with their friends and coworkers, their family members. And also, let's pray for the Senegalese, the people of Senegal. Let's pray that God will work in their hearts, that God will turn them from Islam, that God will allow them to open the doors of their heart, and they would seek and they would hear the gospel and they come to Christ. But also, let's be joining in praying that God will raise up some laborers, that God will raise an army to reach Senegal with the gospel. There's an open door. We don't know how long that door is going to be open or guaranteed to be open, but you know what? God has an open door. Let's pray that that door will stay open and that God can raise up some laborers to go there. But as we're praying, let's remember, not only pray for the country of Senegal this week, but what are you doing to help see the world reach with the gospel in this generation? We're praying for Senegal to be reached with the gospel in this generation this week, but we should be endeavoring to do right where we are, all that we can to see the world reach with the gospel in this generation. That means being involved in giving, being involved in your church, being involved in any ministry you can, but also sharing the gospel, being involved in discipleship, going on mission trips, and doing and praying for all that you can, that we can all see the world reach with the gospel in this generation. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of It's All About Missions. And we'd like to ask you to do a couple things for us. The first thing I ask you to do, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date when all of our new episodes drop. And that way, as a new episode comes, you'll get a notification that lets you know, hey, we've got a new episode of It's All About Missions. Second thing we ask you to do, if you haven't yet, please make sure to leave us a review. These reviews are very vital and they help us out and they help other people to see us in the podcast player of choice. They'll see us and see those reviews and say, hey, I want to check out this podcast. And lastly, one other thing I'd like you to do, why don't you share us with a friend, a family member, somebody you know, and say, hey, why don't you go over and check out It's All About Missions. That'll help us grow our audience, help people to know more about It's All About Missions, and guess what? It'll help more people get involved in reaching the world with the gospel. I want to challenge you to know that the Bible, it's all about missions. And as a Christian, your life should be all about missions. And what are you going to do to impact the world with the gospel in this generation?